Hi, students. How are you doing? Welcome to Sim. And thank you all so much for the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. So she actually came out to tell us that, that we are Black people are the minorities and the majority of them have voted. And that you all are not even taking time to ask why is it that majority of the people voted for Trump. What I am going to say is that a majority of you all that voted Trump do not know anything. Number one is that if you ask an average person, why did you vote? They will just say economy without knowing anything. What are you talking about when it comes to economy? Do you think the economy will be better in his own regime and all that? Some of you have no idea. I see some of you out there trying to ask, will the tariff that he is going to, will it affect me or it will not affect me? So you don't even understand how the tariff works, but you voted for him, right? You don't even understand his policies and all that, but you voted for him. Now you all are out there screaming or searching, how do I take my vote back? And you are out here trying to tell us that you all are the majority and we are the minority, and that we are supposed to take out time to understand why you all voted for him. So many people voted for him because he said he loves the uneducated, because you or majority of you are uneducated. You know, one thing I have loved so far is that when people show you who they are, do not make excuses for them. Let's get it.
Is that you are the minority right now. The majority of America has voted red. And I feel like no one has taken a second to ask themselves why so many people have voted for Trump.
I do not need to question why the white majority chose the white majority. That has been pretty consistent throughout human history. I do need to consider why a group of people who consider themselves more educated than their ancestors, less racist than their ancestors, saw over 90% of Black women say no and not pause. Over 90% of Black women said danger, and you didn't listen. Even now, you're still not concerned about it. Why? Black women are the Cassandras of Troy of today. We can so clearly see into the future because we have never once forgotten the past. We know all the signs of an abuser because we have been abused by everyone. And yet you are not concerned over why 90% of Black women and over 80% of Black men saw who you were voting for and said no. People who have dealt with some of the worst racism and abuse in all of human history decided to vote against you, and you're not concerned about that. People who have been affected by racism and abuse are scared, and you're not questioning that. Instead, you're asking us to question why white people chose white people. You're trying to convince us that because you're in the majority, you're correct, as if the majority did not do slavery, as if the majority did not do the Holocaust. The majority has been wrong over and over again. So my question to you, as people who claim to be not racist, why are you not concerned that people of color are concerned? Why?
That you are the minority right now. The majority of America has voted.
Thing. And I know this don't apply to all of them, but at some point they say when someone shows you who they are, you need to believe them. Okay? History keeps repeating itself over and over again. This man and all of these things that he has done is made it into office for a second term. We should not be surprised. Hate fuels this country. Okay? The majority voted to stay the majority. As Black people, why are we sitting on this app surprised? We can be disappointed. We can be sad. We can be frustrated. We never had the numbers in the first place. That man got into office. We was gagged in. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when he was going to get back into office. Okay. But we can't sit up here and act flabbergasted at the fact that the majority voted to stay the majority. They've been doing it since this country was founded. Okay. We only account for 13% of the population. Okay. At the end of the day, we never really have the numbers. Okay. That's why we need to support each other more than anything during these times.
So here we are, right, 1 week after the US presidential election, and we're watching the beginnings of our society crumble and burn to the ground. And the very same people who were telling us adamantly that the Harris campaign and the Harris team are just as bad as Trump's team are now either backpedaling their statements and backtracking, or they're now begging Biden to do something before he leaves office that will protect us from the onslaught of Project 2025. Same folks who told us not to vote for Harris, but to vote for Jill Stein instead, right? We're all seeing that, right? Because we have eyes. And we're all strategizing and trying to make plans for what to do to avoid things burning to the ground, essentially, right? Everyone's hair is on fire. Everyone is running around screaming, saying that the sky is falling, because it is falling and it is on fire. We can objectively acknowledge that. And it's not even January 20th yet when that orange piece of shit is inaugurated. God help us then, for real. Now, here's the kicker. If you are a marginalized person, whether you're marginalized by race, by gender, by disability, or by class, I want you to ask yourself this while all these new age intellectuals are running around with their hair on fire. Ask yourself this: how many times has your life burned to the fucking ground? And how many times have you had to pick up the pieces, the ashes, and still make something of nothing, basically? How many times have you had to make lemonade with some rotten, funky ass, spoiled, infected ass lemons, and you still managed to make some sweet lemonade? How many times has that happened for you? How many times has your life ended and you had to start over from square one with nothing, no resources, no support system, no help? How many times? Those of us who know the answers to those questions, we voted accordingly. We voted for Harris Waltz. We galvanized our support networks, our neighbors, our family members, our loved ones, our friends. We used the power of our voices either through social media or through door knocking and things like that and phone banking. We voted accordingly, and we tried to tell these super duper ultra leftist, damn near wannabe communist, Marxist individuals what would happen and what was at stake. The Harris campaign communicated that effectively through their advertising and through their campaigning, as did we, the people here on the ground, because we understand what life looks and feels like when shit burns to the ground and you have no support system. All we were trying to do was to prevent that from happening to other people, because fuck us for having empathy and compassion, and fuck us for having eyes and being able to predict and see exactly where this shit is going, right? So now, these same super duper armchair radicals, these internet revolutionaries, or armchair revolutionaries as I call them, the extent of all their revolutionary ideals does not extend past them tweeting or making TikToks. They put their phone down and they're right back to their very comfortable, privileged lifestyles in every regard. They don't even speak up in the McDonald's drive-thru when their order is wrong, but they come tell the rest of us that we shouldn't have voted for Harris, we should have voted for Jill Stein. Fuck them. Let them figure this out, because what's going to happen is a reckoning. People who in this country who marginalized us either based on our gender, race, or class, and who judged us and condescended to us and denied us opportunities and cast aspersions upon us because we either weren't as advanced financially as we should be, or some of us had to move home to live with parents, or some of us have challenged credit from things that went into collections because we've never earned enough despite obtaining degree after degree and despite making all the right decisions. Those folks are about to experience what life has always been like for the rest of us. Those folks are about to have to experience what it means to rob Peter to pay Paul, and to eke out a little itty bitty tiny life in spite of some very challenging circumstances, and to not lose hope and to not want to take your own life because you don't feel like you have hope of progression or moving forward. Okay, those folks are about to experience what the rest of us have experienced either for ongoing periods of time or have experienced for most of our lives. You know who these folks are. These folks judge you because, well, why do you have a law degree and you're not working in a position that pays you 6 figures and live in New York? Well, let's see, I'm a woman and I'm not white, so I don't get hired for those positions. Or they even judge poor white people who tried to go to college and tried to make something of themselves, but because they don't come from families with support systems, perhaps they have more debt, perhaps they don't have higher income positions to pay off that debt, so they live with several roommates, or they don't have, certain trappings of success, certain trappings of life that we were all judged for not having, right? They cast aspersions on your profession. They cast aspersions on the fact that you have a high student loan balance. They cast aspersions on the very creative ways you come up with saving money and pinching pennies and cutting corners, and how you still manage to not be on the street despite the fact that day to day, every day, is like, you don't know what'll happen, despite the fact that right after you get paid, all of your cost of living expenses, your survival expenses eat up your entire paycheck. And somehow you're not starving, you're clothed, the lights are on, there's food in the fridge, and you're not on the street. So you basically make miracles every day. We know what that life is like, and we didn't want other people to experience it, which is why we told these motherfuckers to vote for Harris Waltz. These other motherfuckers, all of their theory is just abstract. They've never actually had to live life the way that we marginalized individuals have had to live life. And I'm saying we marginalized folks because I'm speaking primarily to those of us marginalized by race and ethnicity and gender, but I'm also going to include those of us who are marginalized by class so that I can include our Caucasian brothers and sisters who were in this fight and who also voted for Harris Waltz, okay? Those folks are about to live what we've had to live. So don't help them. Don't give them any advice. Don't give them tips. Don't give them any pointers for, what we have to do when we need new clothes and coats, how we have to go to swap meets and estate sales and Goodwills and shit like that and have to rely literally on the goodwill of strangers to be able to provide certain things for us. Don't give them any tips on how we cut coupons and how we go to Aldi for this grocery or how we go to another grocery store for this grocery or what kind of drugstore beauty products we use or how often or not we fill up our gas tanks and what we have to do to rob Peter to Pe0ple and or rather how we prioritize which bill will get paid, which bill will not get paid, which credit card will go to collections, which credit card will fight to keep open. We've already lived that life. We already know what that life in that world looks and feels like without resources, without support system, without help. We already know how to draw on hope from within our own selves. We already know how to defend ourselves against tyrannical governments, basically, and tyrannical people in power because we live that every day. They're about to experience it for the first time, so they're in for a doozy. They have no idea what's coming, and that's fine. That's what they wanted. So I'm just telling you that if this is something that you are preparing for and you know how to strategize, you know what to plan for, you're not sharing your plans with anyone either because we're entering a fascist state, don't help those motherfuckers. Ignore them as they're begging and screaming for help, as they're begging Biden, the same Biden that they turned on and said had cognitive decline and had a bad debate performance, and that's why his own party turned on him. And then the same party also wouldn't work to elect Kamala Harris, whom Biden selected as his successor. Now they're begging everyone for help. They don't know what they're going to do. They feel weary about Trump being elected. Don't speak up in their defense. Don't help them at all. Leave them because they have all the answers, obviously. That's why they told people to turn on Biden. And then that's why they also told people to not vote for Kamala after they turned on Biden and made Biden propose Kamala as his successor. They clearly have all the answers. They know something that we don't know. So leave them to their devices. Leave them to figure this shit out. Okay?
So a few things that I'm just going to get out of your hair. First thing, you cannot call yourself an ally of anybody. That is up to the community that you're advocating for. They have to determine if you're actually listening to them, if you're actually hearing them, if you're actually respecting them, if you are actually safe, if your work is effective. Speaking of the work, when we said do the work, we didn't mean make a bunch of t-shirts. We didn't mean make a bunch of blue bracelets. We didn't mean that you needed to perform your activism in a way. Too many folks are caught up with trying to look good than actually be good. It's them damn black squares and pink hats all over again. Stop trying to put on the optics of activism and get activated. When we say do the work, we're saying address your own internal biases, address your own internalized hatred, do the dismantling and unlearning of those systems within yourself. Notice how a lot of this is self-work. And I know that's less appealing because you can't post it on social media for likes and clicks, but that's the work that needs to be done. If you haven't done the work within yourself, shame on you for trying to tell other people to do it. If you haven't checked yourself, shame on you for trying to check anybody else. And this is not a destination. This is a journey. You will constantly be unlearning things. You will constantly be checking your own biases. Because as someone wisely said, not me, this is someone else, way more brilliant than I, that these systems and structures are not the shark. They are the water that we are all swimming in. And what we learned recently is that a lot of y'all put on the optics and the costume of advocacy. Meanwhile, y'all went in y'all ballot boxes. Meanwhile, when it came time to count, y'all were nowhere to be found. Now a bunch of y'all are online begging folks to still like you and to still want to be in community with you and still want to be your friend. Not understanding that you cannot possibly say that you care for somebody and vote or elect someone who will literally attack that person's rights. That's the opposite of community. Calling people immature for that shows you have no comprehension about what your own actions actually mean, and you don't want any accountability for that. So until that work is done, until folks stop performing activism and get activated, and until a lot of y'all care more about being effective, being helpful, or at the very least not being harmful, then we will keep ending up back at this space time and time again. Do the work or leave us alone.
You know, Black women have historically been the most consistent and loyal voting bloc for the Democratic Party since we got the right to vote during the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Despite that, we are constantly taken advantage of and never given full credit for our contribution for shaping America to be more progressive and equitable than it's ever been before.
Percent of Black women, according to CNN exit polls, voted for Vice President Kamala Harris to become the first Black woman president of the United States. Now, Black women were 7% of the electorate. No other demographic across race or gender, age, income, education, married, rural, suburban, nobody supported either candidate so abundantly. Now, Black women have long been the backbone of the Democratic Party, but it warrants repeating.
And what has happened in this election, despite me not agreeing with Kamala on a number of different issues, I don't believe fundamentally that she was ever set up for success. I also don't believe that race and gender didn't play a major role on why a lot of Trump supporters did not vote for her, especially when the opposition to her is a man who was convicted of rape, is a man who has not been successful. I think he filed for bankruptcy more than 6 times, is a man who has constantly cheated and lied and manipulated his way into leadership, even though he lacks all the qualifications.
Important than who they voted for is what they say they were voting for. Because you know what the most important issue for Harris voters was? According to CNN exit polls, it was not foreign policy. It wasn't the economy. It wasn't immigration. It wasn't abortion rights. It was American democracy. Think of it. This is a country that has never elected a Black woman governor. Of the more than 11,500 members of Congress in the history of America, 60 have been Black women. That's about 0.5%. And next session, 2 Black women will serve in the Senate together for the first time ever. Angela Alsobrooks of Maryland, Elisa Buck-Rochester of Delaware. And still, so many Black women voted to protect the democracy of a country, let's make it plain here, that for centuries denied their grandmothers and their great-grandmothers full participation in it. So yeah.
You know, one of my mutuals a few weeks ago talked about how, and it made me realize that I'm actually in the same boat, that her mother was born before the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And she is the first generation to have full access to her voting rights in this country. You know, it's very easy, and even sometimes I have to check myself, that we oftentimes will see America as a failed experiment because we haven't received every single thing that we deserve. But we've come so far. And the fact that even though this country was never built with Black women in mind, we still voted historically to protect the idea of what this democracy could be. And America showed its ass.
None of this would have happened if you had boundaries. See, Democrats, this is exactly what happens when you fuck with what we take seriously. What we know today and what has just been announced is that Donald Trump and the Republicans are in charge of every single government branch. We have majority control at this point. Donald Trump is in the White House. A majority of the Supreme Court judges are all Republican. And it was just voted on that the Republicans will retain the majority in the House of Representatives. And again, all because you wanted to come fuck with the shit you shouldn't have been touching. Don't fuck with our kids. Don't fuck with their education. Don't fuck with our safety and our national security. Don't fuck with women and moms, which is the reason why the world goes round and all of us are sitting here today. Oh, and also importantly, don't fuck with our money and think that we're stupid and don't see what's going on. This is what happens when people wake up. A majority of women voted for Donald Trump in this country because we're sick and tired of dealing with liberal Democrats like you guys. Struggling every single fucking day, hearing that there are 325,000 missing children when it is our job to protect the children. I said it in the beginning of this campaign that Donald Trump was going to be the next president because people are fed the fuck up with you touching our shit. And if you had stuck to your normal narrative of just trying to keep people oppressed and broke, you may be in the White House still. And yet here we are, We told you to stop.
So this is all I got from this video, and you all could hear it from the horse's mouth, because these people don't listen. They don't reason very well. She's here to tell us that they are the majority and we are the minority, and they have decided who they are who they voted for, and which is true. You all have voted, right? But the consequences that come out, it is all on you people, because we are also going to watch. We're not saying it's not going to affect us, but we ain't gonna do anything like we've been serving the democracy all these years. The fact that some of them do not see anything wrong with what is going on or what is going to happen is just amazing. Some think that he is going to make education right because education wasn't right. That is to tell you how some people are always on the wrong side of history. But there is something that I have also understand. When people tell you who they are, that is them. Do not make excuse for them. 7 reasons for why you voted for him. Because you all think the security of the country is not okay. That you all think that he is going to bring down the world. Some of you are out there running around trying to know the meaning of tariff. How is it going to work? Some are asking, is it going to be in my favor or against my favor? Absolutely against your favor. And I look forward to it. I look forward to that period you all will come out here to say, now we know we messed up. Because absolutely you all will do it. Because you all are shameless. Some people are very, very shameless. Now, some of you are grinning from ear to ear, being happy that he is on set. He has not even entered. He has not begun, but you all are already feeling it. And the reality is that you all are going to feel it. I see some people coming to say, my grandmother my family disowned me, my grandmother. Even if your grandmother has more sense than you. If she is raising him better than you at her age. I don't know her age, but a grandmother, you all already know. But because the person is a full-grown adult woman, for your grandmother to say she's going to disown you, that tells you how dumb you are. You are not even smart at all. Your grandmother that has lived life and all that, and she's really old. Some of them, the majority of them, do not understand a lot when it comes to politics, but she is still able to understand, though you did not understand. Just to tell you how you're on. I love it for you people. And Black women are resting, and they will be observing from their 4D camera and whatever. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.